Elevate the thunder. Living in the moment, and the moment is the future. Living with the mentor.
Welcome to Sped Talk with Pam
and John,
also known as The Calm
Before the Storm.
Pam, can you believe that we are in the third season of doing this whole Sped Talk thing?
That is right, John. It's somewhat unbelievable that we're still here and we're still elevating the conversation about special education in Texas. This season, we are discussing new topics and we're also adding new members to the Sped Talk team.
Yeah, I love that. You know, we went from it just being you and me. Well, of course, we're always going to shout out Amy, but we have 3 new members. You know, Pam, that makes Sped Talk a collaboration between 5 ESCs across the state.
And that's wonderful because Texas has over 500,000 students receiving special education services in school districts and also in charters.
Wow, I hadn't realized that. So it's probably a good thing we've got some backup because I don't know if you and me could have handled that many stories on our own.
It's somewhat awesome to think about what's going on within the classrooms and how excellent teachers are doing, and also the challenges that they're facing. And this is an opportunity for us to share their stories because all our families and all the teachers have a story.
I love it. I love it. Like I got chills the first time you said that. And I was thinking, that's what we're trying to let people know.
Exactly, John. Special education is about making the impossible possible. Hey, John.
What's going on, Pam?
Oh, not much. How are you today?
You know what? I'm doing great. The weather's great. It's cool out. I see people with scarves on, jackets on. So I can't complain.
Thank you for the weather report. So let's talk about who's joining our team.
We have new faces, we have new voices, we have new collaborations, and this group of individuals we have this year really shows how ESCs are collaborating and how we are coming together around the state to connect resources and supports for kids with disabilities.
I agree with you, John. I think having new voices, and also we've talked a lot about resources in the past, but I think this season we really want to highlight school districts and what they're doing and just the success they're having. So we'll have more about really what's going on in the classrooms and on campuses throughout the state.
We're going to share stories and show evidence of just excellence in practice. And, you know, with that, like I would love to go through and just kind of let's highlight some excellent individuals right here we got joining our team. And I tell you, you said, Pam, we had some brave people that joined up, and I don't think they knew what they were getting into. But let's start out. We got Evan Heckman with us here. Evan is from ESC Region 10, and he is one of the special ed liaisons up there in Region 10.
Hey, thanks, John. Hi, Pam. How are you?
Doing great, Evan.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to join you for the second time. I think we spoke probably a year and a half or so ago and talked a little bit about the work that I had done on a couple of different topics, and I'm just excited about the opportunity to come back on and maybe try to help take the idea of this podcast and sharing information and resources forward and expanding it and helping more people to hear the great message that you two were spreading.
Thank you, Evan. Would you like to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Started my 4th year at the Region 10 Education Service Center as a special education liaison. Started this grant in its initial phase back in September of 2017. And prior to that, spent most of a now 21 or 22 year education career as a campus administrator, almost 15 years at the secondary level as an assistant principal and principal at the middle school and high school level. And was fortunate to make some connections and build some relationships with people that carried over into an opportunity to work at the ESC, specifically in this capacity, really focusing on an opportunity to increase the outcomes of students with disabilities.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Evan is a good buddy, but you know, just the work that we've collaborated on, he was integral in, you know, the SPED Leadership Academy dashboard, now SPED Director dashboard. He and I iterated on some ideas, and Evan kind of went the route of some video vignettes, kind of like
10 minutes till. Great
little video vignettes that they have posted up on ESC 10's website, but ways to be able to capture important information just in a snippet, right? But just to be able to get what you need to know in a quick, easy format and move forward. And then so my stuff kind of went more the dashboard route, where it was, hey, I'm going to create, you know, this dashboard for SPED directors that they can get to a lot of resources around the state quickly, kind of thing. Same idea. How can we streamline access to and really accelerate these resources out, but just different approaches? And so love having Evan on. Thanks for joining us, Evan. I see we've got Sarah Jeter down here, Region 8.
I'm super excited to be here as well.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad you wanted to join us.
Thank you.
I've known Sarah, I don't know how many years ago. We met years ago when I was Carol ISD? Yeah, so providing some consulting work there.
A lot of transition resources that I still share on today.
Yeah, it always paid to be nice to people, John, just so you remember. Just say,
yes, it
they'll
does.
remember you, okay?
That's great. Well, Pam introduced our third new member of the SPEDTalk family.
Jen Davion, ESC 17, has joined us as well. Now, for our listener, now Jen she says she's an introvert, but she's jumped on with us. So, you know, the rule is you be on with us, you have to talk with us. Okay.
Yes, thanks, Pam, for that. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, good to see you.
I find it very difficult, especially in the role that I play here at the Service Center. They give me a hard time because I still get very nervous when I go up to do presentations and I'm shaking. They just don't get to see that. But yes, my name is Jennifer Davion. I have been with the Service Center now 10 years, and this is my 18th year in education. Started out as a bilingual ESL specialist as a teacher in the classroom, teaching specifically in Spanish because we were teaching using a 90-10 model. So I was having to teach in Spanish and then adjust English levels as students progressed. Did that for several years and then went into being an assistant principal in a campus. It was really difficult to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with education simply because my husband, being a employee of the federal government, we moved around a lot, and so we've had to move around, and so it's been kind of difficult in trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. But I think I've found what I've wanted to do in working with school districts at the Service Center. Like I said, I've been here for 10 years now. I've been a liaison now for 4 months. And in that time that I have been here, I've learned so much from you all. And when I heard about the SPEDTalk podcast, I was excited to join simply because I too would love to get the message of it and just making sure that they're not forgotten, that they also have a voice. And I think you guys, from what I've heard so far, have a great voice in it. And I wanted to be a part of that. So I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you, Jen. And just so you know, this is my I think I figured out this is my 25th year working at a service center. And
wow, congratulations.
Well, thank you. So,
Pam, I have a real question. So I have been in education for much less, about 10 years, and 5 at the Service Center. And I still can't decide if I really like adults. I really find myself missing the kids. So after your experience, what do you think? Am I going to get over that?
You'll get over it because what you realize, you start building relationships, and then you start thinking about it as, okay, I'm not with kids, but I'm impacting them. If I can basically teach people what they need to do and show them how to do certain things to make it easier on them, and they do it, then that becomes, you're impacting kids you'll never see. And so that's part of it. I got tickled this morning on our call. We had a Zoom meeting and we're looking at the state parent survey results. And so in Region 9, they were 100% in transition. Well, I've been gone for a while, but I know many of the people that are still there and working at the campus level. And I'm thinking, okay, yes, it did pay off because who preceded me continue the work that I had done. So that's where it comes, kind of that joy of, no, I'm not touching students directly, but I'm working with teachers to help improve how they implement services. And that kind of keeps you going. And I always tell people, this is a job that never ends. You never finish anything until you decide, I'm done. And I was going back to what I was going to say to Jen is that, even 25 years, there are still certain times when I have to present, total nerves, the shaking continues. I always say, if you're not a little bit nervous about speaking in front of people, then I'm not sure how prepared you are, So, and the day's going to come, somebody's going to come up to you and say, hey, I remember when you said so-and-so, and you have that blank look on your face, like, I guess I did say that. And what a difference that it made in my teaching, or it made how with my child, you know.
Well, Pam, let me then throw out one big compliment to you then. We did not have student-centered arts before you came and provided some great training and resources. And the teacher that took my spot when I left picked up right where we left off. And she called me just the other day and said, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level. Where do I go now? We wanna step it up a notch. So
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so that speaks to legacy. And Pam, you do have a legacy, especially in that area of transition around Texas. That's what makes SPEDTalk powerful, is that, you know, bringing perspectives like Pam's and the experience, and even, you know, we all have a story, we all have diversity, we all have things to offer, but it's great when people have invested in education, have built legacy, and have supported people like Sarah coming through the system, others that then take that and then turn it into something even more than what it originated as. And so I think that's a great example. And Pam, you know, I give you a hard time all the time, but that's just because I love you. You know that.
Yeah, that's what you tell me.
Guys, man, this is going to be a fun season. I'm excited. Like, so should we like talk through some ideas for episodes we have coming up? Maybe
I'm really excited about some of those ideas that we're closer on. So yes, throw some out there, share some with your listeners.
Okay. Well, we talked about like the whole getting closer, you know, to the actual action, right? Where it's happening, campuses, schools. And we have some opportunities coming up. You want to share a few of those?
No, I think I'm gonna let you do the sharing today.
I see. Well, I'm gonna volley it all over to Evan then.
Or Jen.
Oh yeah, Jen's got already. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm just picking on you, Jen. I know you want to be behind the scenes. I do too.
Yes. Thanks for that, Sarah. A couple of ideas that I actually have to give credit to another one of our liaisons, Connie Neal out of Region 15, brought up two ideas as far as the first one being Brady ISD becoming a unified campus at one of their campuses, and they're making sure that their students were unified. The programs are unified. Has actually also taken students into different, I believe she said that they had gone to Canada for Special Olympics. And so we're excited to bring that idea out so that everyone can hear about it.
The unified, let's talk about that for a minute. For our listeners, some of them may not know when we use the term unified what that means. And, you know, that was something that was new to me a few years back. And I was real big into Special Olympics when I was a director at my SSA, and I got my bus driver license so I could drive them to the Special Olympics events and stuff. And so, but as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, and some of you may know a lot more about this than me, unified is kind of this movement that Special Olympics is moving into. It's kind of more the inclusive version of Special Olympics. It's like, hey, if we have a sport, football, whatever it is, there's a way that anybody can participate, right? We are going to somehow create meaning and opportunity for all kids of differing abilities to come, as long as they can, you know, work within the parameters that we need them to, and participate in those sports versus having a separate set of sports that they can.
Hey, I've got to throw one jab in there. It is not just about participating. It is definitely also about competing. They bring it.
There you go.
So there's lots of competition there. But it's a lot of social inclusion, and it really, they've been around, actually, the unified piece has been around for over 10 years now. I don't know exactly how many, but they've really, the extra push has been just trying to not only build leadership and inclusive opportunities, but also to remove or to de-emphasize some exclusionary activities that inadvertently leave our kids out.
Yeah, it is in purpose, I think, reminiscent to me of kind of Best Buddies and what they're trying to do, normalize relationships. It's as much about the kids that have not been determined to have a disability and how they view the world and how they form relationships. It's just as much, if not even more in some instances, for that group of kids as it is for the students with disabilities. And I think that's part of the equation conversation, you know, that we don't always land on when we think about how, when, if we include someone. I mean, I get stares every time I say it, but I still think if a system wasn't exclusionary, it wouldn't need to include. And so, you know,
I agree.
And maybe I'm backwards, but hey, so Jen, did you want to jump in on a second topic?
The second topic was actually an idea, the one that Connie had mentioned also was a mom that had isolated herself because she had two boys and both boys were diagnosed with autism. And so she had isolated herself to raise her boys. And then once she got the boys where they needed to be within the school system, she decided to go back and get her teaching certificate and now works with students with disabilities. And so she definitely has a different perspective in working with kiddos from being a mom first and then coming in as a parent. And so I'm really excited about those two topics. And once we start diving into the background of those two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, John, can I comment on that? Because I was just thinking about something that's super
Absolutely.
powerful in relation to that, right? So I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. And so my education career prior to having those children, I didn't know it until I know it now,
Yeah.
right? But it lacked something. It lacked a certain perspective. And when I think about this mom with 2 autistic children who isolated herself and then had the wherewithal to take the personal experience and turn it into the potential for professional experience.
Yeah.
I'm really wowed by that, given that like today I had my first grade son's parent teacher conference via Zoom, and my son is not a special education student. And I still was really choked up by and really emotional by what I went through. So trying to imagine what it's like for someone else, how powerful is her story to be able to share out. So I'm excited about the opportunity for us to take her voice and her story and really allow others to be informed by it, to be enlightened by it, to get a little teary-eyed maybe, but to really grab on emotionally to what she experienced. Because now that I'm a father as well, I can really understand the difference between experiencing something as an educator or as an educational leader, pre-children, and now as an educational leader with children.
Absolutely, man. That's a great insight, Evan. It's the idea of empathy, and how do you somehow share empathy with others? I mean, you can have empathy, but how do you share it? Maybe it's through the elevation of these stories, of these experiences, and the positive aspects that have come of it. And because people understand stories, our brains are wired for stories. But what they're not wired for always, some are, Evan, thank you very much for all the editing and things you've been helping with, is like data and numbers. And some people like, yes, data but some people it's like, I can't like get warm and fuzzy about that, and I can't decide I want to try something different with a bunch of numbers on a page. Tell me, we got to get this number to this number by this number, and so Evan, like you just really sparked, man, something in me. Even like, I think you're right. We need to double down on what Pam and I have originally wanted to do, and that's tell the stories of people out there making a difference or going through these experiences. Pam, what do you think?
I mean, I agree with you, John. I think, bring it home. As I always say, bring it all home. So we're, get on that level where people can say, hey, these are great things going on. This is something I needed to hear. Because we might have other parents in the same situation. One thing we always ask about when we discuss transition, what's your plan when the school bus stops? What are you going to do next? And, unfortunately, we do have parents, or fortunately, I'm not sure which way it lands, that parents who are, will end their careers to be home with their adult child. And, and that might be fine for some parents, but other parents, they want to continue on living their life, but they also want their kids to have a full life as well. Mm-hmm. And that's why transition is so important. And that we start really discussing that and having those conversations about what's next. And it's always about what's next.
Yeah.
It's kind of, we always say, stay in the presence, but sometimes we need to move just a little bit out of the presence and look.
A little bit of planning goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and look ahead. Look ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're prepared for the next steps.
Yeah. This like having this group together, and Pam and I, and of course Amy at first, felt like we just enjoyed it. When we started SPEDTalk, we said, look, there's good stuff going on. Let's go out and find it, celebrate it. And so Pam and I decided, even when Amy left, look, we enjoy it. We like doing this. We like coming together and talking about positive things and sharing positive examples. And so let's keep this thing going. And to have our 3 new family members, right? SPEDTalk family just got bigger. We're now a family of 5. To me, just just substantiates that there are people out there that want to hear positive stories, want to see positive examples, and want to know and see how Texas is moving forward. Because we have had a few hard, rough, cold years, right? And it's still, we got our growing pains, and COVID is complicating it all. We know that. Like, this terrible disease is just, you got to say something about it anytime you say anything, because it affects everything. But at the end of the day, we're going to get through it. At the end of the day, Texas is moving in the right direction. At the end of the day, the trends are looking good. Opportunity abounds, and man, up, up, up. That's where we're going.
Did you want to throw out that we're gonna try to engage listeners?
We did want to throw that out.
Wait a minute. We're going to try to engage listeners?
Yeah, like, you mean like get married?
Did I miss something?
No.
Yeah.
Evan, how about that? Engaging listeners. Talk a little bit about this feedback loop process we're talking about.
Yeah, thanks for that opportunity. You know, you see in businesses, you see in society, every time you buy something, every time you go to the movies or take your car to get the oil changed or buy something online from a retailer, they want your feedback. They want to throw back a survey to you. They want to text you well, I think that's because people are starting to recognize and understand the value in providing people with what they want. And as it comes to this process, we do not claim to be the end all be all in the information distribution service as it comes to special education stories. What we hope to be is a group of people who can share with you things that inspire you and motivate you. But everybody's different, and everybody has a different inspiration level and a different button to get pressed for their motivational processes. So we decided it would be a really good idea to find a way to share via some online or social media platform, an opportunity for you as listeners to help us know what to produce as podcasts. Maybe we start off by saying, here's 3 choices, pick one. And maybe we transition that over time into, hey, tell us the topics or ideas you want. We're open to those types of suggestions, but the opportunity to allow you, the listener, to share with us what you think you want to hear, what would be helpful to you, what would be motivational and inspiring to you, is what's driving us to create an engagement piece and a feedback loop so that you can help us to decide what to do on SPEDTalk. That's
a great explanation, Evan. So that's the idea is, listen, we know that you're listening. We know that you enjoy the stories and probably connect to many of them. But, you know, we feel like the point of this is this two-way conversation. And that's one of the things Pam and I felt like has been missing is we feel like we are connecting to you guys through this podcast, but we want to feel like we're connecting to you from feedback you give us and from that hopefully continued conversation. And so we feel like this might be a way for us to, like Evan said, develop just a brief survey, something to throw out like on the SPEDTalk Twitter page, something along those lines, and be able to just gather that feedback. Now, a lot of times feedback is given, but feedback is not listened to or reviewed, or we intend to really take this information and help it drive future podcasts. So now that we are really starting out season 3 of SPEDTalk, we just want to thank everybody for tuning in and for, you know, elevating this conversation that we're having. This has been awesome, and I appreciate y'all having the courage to get on here and contribute. And I really do. You know, I hope as we move forward and we have future opportunities to elevate these conversations that, you know, when schedules align, all 3 of y'all hopefully will be joining us on future episodes. I know we're all working behind the scenes, but your voices need to be out there with us. You matter so much to this podcast, and we are so thankful to have you.
And I will concur with John, because if there's a subject that you're really passionate about and you say, hey, I want to be in on this and I want, you know, be part of that discussion. You know, we want you to be part of the discussion. Tell everyone how they can continue to elevate the conversation about special education in Texas.
You got it, Pam. They can continue to hit us up on Twitter at SPEDTalk 2020. And soon they'll be able to find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Because in these disconnected times, connecting with others has never been so important. Now more than ever, it takes courage to create culture and kindness to keep us connected.
Living in the moment, and the moment is the future.